done through the lease.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to ratify the chairman's signature on a letter of support for the technical assistance funding from the MHP, the Massachusetts Housing Partnership.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We received a letter from a resident, Catherine Cummings, concerning traffic safety on Main Street, which reads, got it. To whom it may concern, my name is Catherine Cummings. My husband and I live at 151 Main Street in Essex, Massachusetts. I'm writing with my concerns about the traffic flow, speed, and safety on Main Street, Essex. My concerns are being fueled by the increase in the current building projects as well as the projected projects in the Main Street area. Main Street is utilized as a primary route to access the inland areas surrounding Essex, with large construction and large delivery vehicles utilized by the residents of the town of Essex to access homes and businesses, utilized as a popular bicycle route, a motorcycle route, a pet walking route, school bus route, but most important users are children. There are children on bikes and scooters, walking, running, playing, crossing the road, and just being children, with all that implies. Having visited the Essex Town Hall, the Department of Public Works, and the Essex Police Station, I'm preparing this letter to send my offer of assistance to create better signage for Main Street, highlighting its usage and all that it has to offer. It's my understanding that Main Street in Essex, Mass. Is a state road, but I've been told by the Essex DPW that the road from Water Street on Eastern Ave to the building housing Howard's Antiques at 136 Main Street is a town road. If that is fact, is there not something we can do as the town of Essex in that short area to wake the drivers up to not only their need to follow the speed limits, but to be aware that there are at least 50 entrances and exits along a 0.3 mile area. Cars and trucks are trying to back in and out on the road. Residents, businesses, condominium buildings, restaurants, stores, bakeries, service station, all surrounded by delicate marshland. The Essex River Cultural District and the Essex Coastal Scenic Byway have both created maps including the area. Who is actually the responsible party for the protection of this vital area? And to those who live and work here, in what way can we help to educate and the impatient drivers making their way through our beautiful downtown? I look forward to your response, and I'm ready and willing to work on these issues with you. Sincerely, Catherine Cummings. Chief, do you want to join us? I know that you were copied in this letter as well. And do you want to speak to the speed on 133? I will quickly speak to the signage comment, which is that the town of Essex received an $80,000 grant, which was for parking and wayfinding. And with that grant, we did a study. We hired engineers, we did a study. We actually were looking to create more parking for the businesses in town. And what we realized it did was, instead of creating spaces, they actually lost about 47 spaces. When you look at the engineering of the roads, because they have to have line of sight between crosswalks and the exits of streets and such, the business community gathered together up here on the third floor for a forum when it was rolled out by the engineers. And they basically said, well, no, we don't want to lose all these spots. So it was determined by the chief of the police at the time that there were still dangerous areas. And we ended up making the decision that we would stripe out dangerous spots, such as at the corner of Martin and Main, where the old Village Cafe, Guggen's Galley, where Guggen's Galley is. And then there was a spot in front of Mr. Guerin's house down just by Pickering. So we ended up striping out dangerous areas instead of lining and striping. And the issue with the signage that I will comment on is that there are requirements as to the colors in the height and the size of the signs. And it was determined that the signs were so huge that they would actually be intrusive and more obstructing views. So that's why we went with the striping out, and we didn't do with those signs about wayfinding in downtown. So having said that, can you speak to the speed on Main Street and if there's anything we can do to calm that?
Yeah, so the speed zone is posted at 25 miles an hour. There is a flashing Mass Highway speed alert sign if you are traveling westbound to Ipswich. perhaps we could explore maybe adding a flashing sign eastbound towards Gloucester right after.
We did that recently, after the last person who complained about the road. There was a flashing speed limit sign.
There is one.
Just before, when you're coming from Gloucester, just before you got to, I think right at around Water Street. That's not there, I don't believe. Is it there?
There is not. It's just
So it was there, it looked like a temporary one, but then it was gone. And, you know, walking Main Street every day, I agree with this person, it's.
So we could deploy our two portable speed boards. It's tight down there anyway. We might have to ask if we could use somebody's driveway so we're not taking up a sidewalk.
Right.
But we could put our own signs down there and probably start a speed study just to get a ballpark figure of the speeds. There is ample speed signage posted there. The roadway only allows vehicles to travel so fast. That being said, people that don't follow the speed limits, we had a kid that was OUI, crashed. He was probably coming around the corner at 40 something. It's an enforcement issue, but it is also an awareness issue. But I'd be willing to deploy the speed boards down there to start a speed study so we can actually get some hard numbers.
I think that's a great first step. So
No, she's looking to do some sort of signage.
She-
I'm not sure what the sign is.
well, I think that the signage, she mentions about basically wayfinding. There's a lot that downtown has to offer. She'd be interested in helping with
Oh, I thought it was
signage.
something to do with informing people of who uses it and the speed that, I don't know. I'm not really sure what she's asking for there. But on the note of traffic calming, I've seen in some towns in some other states, and the causeway may be too narrow and there may be too many openings, but they put kind of an island in the middle that causes vehicles to have to slow down. I don't know if there's any place for that, but it's very effective at slowing traffic down. It's probably too narrow.
I was going to say, I would think that
And I
road's
think
narrow.
To me, what I see, especially walking every morning, is the 18-wheelers. I mean, even they are going, like, there are times where I jump off further into somebody's yard because I'm like, how fast is that, vehicle going? Of course, I'm walking, so it seems faster.
I
Just a
think-
thought,
I mean, it's a great thought. I think that the first and best step would be signboards. If we could deploy those and do a speed study, it will give us a better indicator of what the next step is.
Absolutely.
And I think I'll reach out to the resident and ask what they're thinking by way of signage, and we can have a better discussion once I have clear direction on that. Thank you, Chief.
Absolutely.
I'm going to invite Maureen, Wendy, Doug to the podium. We have a 6:05 appointment with you, so I don't want to keep you guys staying any longer than you need to.
Sorry.
Welcome back from Florida.
Yeah.
I hope you had a relaxing winter.
Yeah.
So you're on the agenda for 6:05, Maureen Woodman, regarding proposed entertainment licenses. So we met back in November, just before you left, and
December, we met. November and December. First, I came in November, then I came back after December 12th on December 14th. So this is the third meeting.
this is the third meeting. Yep, exactly. So when we took all the meetings into consideration, we compiled everything, we put together your recommendations into the license and sent that out. And we have that with incorporating, do you want me to read it, Maureen? You have a copy, I'm assuming?
We have it.
Okay.
We're fine. We just want to know what you want from us for the next meeting.
Okay, perfect. So we have, you're, as we said, you're uniquely situated. We want you to have outdoor entertainment. You're only a butter. You've never had complaints. So what's been laid out, I know that we took all of the input and we laid it all out into the language for the license with adding the single steel drum, the single speaker, amplification, music during events.
11 to 8 with a 4-hour window.
We had 1 to 8, but I see no problem with the 11. We can change that to 11. So we have everything that you brought forward and put into a document. We can send this back. So it just needs to be codified on the application. So if we copy and paste this in the email and forward it to you, and you just put that on a piece of paper with the application, the board has this, yes? Does the board have any other comments? Because other than changing the 1 p.m. down to 11 a.m., that's the request.
Yep, no, fine.
You're,
The only thing that I had written myself as a note is, as far as the steel drum, it's occasional. It's not something you're gonna do all the time.
Just in case I do it.
Yep.
In the steel drum, they did in the summer of '24, and there were no complaints. It's not coming. They're so uniquely situated and they're their own abutter that the music doesn't travel like it does with the other restaurants along the river. So, Maureen, I think that what you provided throughout our meetings has been fine.
Okay.
I think, so the one that I'm looking at is dated November 15th, 2024, sent at 11:47 a.m., and it captures everything we discussed through the meetings
Okay.
in red. Do you mind forwarding that?
Yeah, I'll send that out. I'll make another change for the 11 a.m.
Yes.
And you're gonna apply for 4 permits, right? 2 Sunday and 2 weekday?
No, we called Pam today, and what we're gonna do is we're going to go for an annual Sunday now, because it's cheaper. So we're gonna fill in the same thing. So right now, we have to do one for the tent, which we got through. Then we're gonna put for one for a full year at the hall area. Then we're gonna put through one for all the Sundays for the tent, and one for all the Sundays
Right.
of the.
So that's four applications.
total.
Right,
Right.
that's what I said.
But we want to get through this. The only thing, I mean, I'm going to just throw it out there so I don't have to come back. I was told that you were going to have a certificate of insurance you wanted, which Wendy printed today to bring. It's not on your list, but I was told that you may want that. Do you want a certificate of insurance for our business?
I don't think that's normally part of
Wait,
the
no.
application.
Okay, perfect. But we brought one if you want to keep it for the file.
So you mentioned though that what are you expecting to get out of tonight? Because we don't have any applications.
Tonight, we submitted our application on Friday, which I realized nobody was working Friday. We signed our application, we put it in. It wasn't here by the Wednesday deadline at 12 o'clock. I apologize for that. So we filled in the application that Ruthie's talking about, that talks about the steel drums and all the stuff. We submitted it. I realized you didn't have time to see it because it was after Wednesday at 12 o'clock, whenever it's due. So I was expecting today that I was going to walk away with my yearly entertainment license for the tent.
And which tent? For one of the tents, right?
Tent in the parking lot. Then I'm going to put in, Wendy and I went through all the days that we need our liquor license. Then we just put down 4 or 5 Sundays we may want. But then when I realized I could file for a Sunday one, it's cheaper. So instead of buying 6, what's the price on a daily for the Sunday?
Pam has it, I don't know. Price on a daily entertainment.
Isn't it $30? I think it's 20 plus 5 or something. And then the annual is $100?
Yeah, it's much cheaper. It makes perfect sense. I guess what I'm trying to say is
We're gonna fill this one in that you have, or you're giving it to me, I still don't know. Getting one?
I will email you the language that we came up with in November, copy and paste that to the application
Okay.
on 4 applications.
Beautiful.
2 Sunday, and the reason we're saying 4 is that you have 2 tents.
Correct.
So you need 1 for each tent for Sundays and 1 for each tent for weekdays. So it's 4 applications.
Just to go over, it's not a tented area at the hall, it's the corral area.
It's the
not-
grass in front of the function hall. Yes.
Okay, so that's what we call the grassy corral.
Okay, so the language we put together though was talking about 2 different tents, the function hall tent
Yep,
and the salt
Salt
marsh
marsh
tent.
tent.
correct.
There isn't a permanent tent at the function hall, so depending on the event, there may be a tent there, or it
Okay,
may just be.
So when you do it, you're gonna wanna appropriately put in, function hall corral.
125, the address is 125. The hall is
Well,
125.
it's important, we have to know exactly where.
Right.
That's the only 125 on the property. The
No,
corral
no,
is
the
125.
location on 125.
Oh, okay.
So you need a site plan.
So we put in the corral. We call it the corral.
Well, on the application that I have right here, shown on the attached document labeled Essex Room Lawn, is that sufficient?
That's what we used to use all the time.
Essex room lawn
Yeah,
is
that makes
sufficient.
sense.
That makes
Did
sense.
for the previous.
You might have a tent, you might not have a tent.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that works.
Thank you.
And the other one is definitely a tent, because it's always a tent. And there's
Correct, and that's
there's
our
also a
permanent
grassed
tent.
area around there.
Correct. And it's all fenced in, corralled in, has all the stuff. So yes, so now you're gonna send me 4 applications. We're gonna fill them out. And then do I come back again on the 28th to get approval?
So Maureen, we're just gonna send you the language one time and you're gonna be able to, it's a Word document, so you can take where it says,
So are we cutting and pasting it into the application or you?
No, we are.
You are.
And it's just an attachment. So
It's-
on the application, you could say, please see
See
attached.
attached.
And then it will describe, so you don't have to try to get it all in on the front, because it's more voluminous than that. You can put that as an attachment, and it will be different for each of the four, because there's 2 Saturday and 2 Sunday and all
Got it.
that, all those
So then I'm gonna bring
permutations.
those to you by Wednesday, and then do I come back on the 28th to get approval on the 4? Is my
That's,
direct
I think,
question.
would be the plan.
That will be the plan.
So I want to get back on the agenda.
I'm sorry.
And
is
you're
the
gonna approve
28th
those?
our next meeting, or is
Yes.
it-
2 weeks from now, yes.
Yes. And yes, you'll be on the agenda, Maureen. We'll add you right now.
28th,
April
right?
28th.
April 28th?
And does 6:05 work for you?
Yes, fine. 'cause
6:05.
Like I said, we're trying to get to Mother's Day right now. So Mother's Day is May 11th. That's our goal. So
Okay.
we're still,
We still have time.
we still got time.
So Wendy, it sounds like you're going to be the one cutting and pasting this. So where it says, when you get this Word document, and you're just going to take the application, right, see attached, take the Word doc, and you're going to have areas where you need to remove some of our language and put yours in. So it says Salt Marsh tent or function hall tent. Just remove that, leave one of them Salt Marsh tent, and I think that's 119 Main Street, and then it will say address, so put 119. Then you're going to leave lawn in front of function hall, 125 Main Street. So just identify it in the areas that have parentheses, and that will clean this up.
Then I think the language talks about, I think you only wanted the drum and it at one of the locations, right? Isn't that what it says?
Could be either location.
Either.
Outdoor entertainment is limited to unamplified acoustic music not involving significant elements of percussion with the exception of a single steel drum or horns, provided, however, that the applicant may use a single speaker for the amplification of individuals' voices and music during events. The entertainment will not be audible beyond the boundaries of the licensee's property, and outdoor entertainment shall be limited to the hours. We're going to change that from 1 to 8. It's going to go 11 to 8. And for the duration of entertainment within that window shall be limited to 4 hours.
Yeah,
So
let me
it's-
just look at the top of it. There's a plan or a drawing that goes with each one. So you'll have the application, you'll have the attached license language, and then you'll just have the drawing.
You want us to submit more drawings?
I have them.
We
Yeah,
have them.
just
We brought
another
them
copy
tonight.
of it, just another copy of it. Let's see.
Maureen, this is when we do an annual, we want to get all the attachments, so it will be the site plan, as well as you also have the security plan that you guys wrote up years ago. Just, Wendy, I'm sure you have the security plan. Just attach that to the application, so it's a complete application. When it gets filed, it's all as a packet.
So the laundry list now is the site map, the security plan, the actual application, the check.
Yep.
And was there one other thing?
The check comes once Pam emails, states approved, and then you say the check, and then I bring it over. Thank you.
We pay after the fact, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the application, the attachment to the application, which has the language in it, security plan, site plan,
Yep.
and, was there anything else?
Those 4 pieces. Got it.
Four pages for each. Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then if at the same time, so you can take care of it all, if you want to bring all the one-day wine and malt
Yes, we're gonna
applications,
do those too.
we'll do those all at the same time.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. All right.
Do you have
great.
any other questions for us?
We're good.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
This is fairly new, isn't it?
I know this.
Fairly new.
It's really what people have been doing it.
Said 5 pages.
Okay.
Sam, I'm going to invite you up to the microphone, please. When you speak, you're going to speak about 6 to 8 inches away from the microphone so that people viewing this at home can actually hear the conversation.
Okay.
So before us this evening, this is Sam. He is the new proprietor of Main Street Auto, which is the old Ernie's gas station at 8 Main Street. He is on our agenda this evening with 2 different licenses. The first one is for gasoline fuel storage permit, and the second one is for a Class 2 license. This particular location of 8 Main Street has never had a Class 2 license issued to it before. A Class 2 license is a license issued to sell used vehicles. So I asked Sam to be present this evening because where this is a new license, this is an opportunity for the board to discuss with Sam what his intentions are with that Class 2, how many cars he intends to have so that we can have guardrails to make sure that the town knows exactly what's happening at that particular location. So Sam, if you wanted to tell us a little bit about the need for a Class 2 license, what your plans are, and how many vehicles, so that we can talk about that.
Yeah, boss, I'm trying to maybe put another 5 to 8 cars.
Okay.
Keep it simple as possible. And I, of course, like no junk cars around, so just only basic good cars for sale. I've been in business doing, years, but I haven't have a license to sell cars before, and this is the first time for me. And wishing to get it.
I can say that the abutters were notified and we have the green cards as required.
Perfect.
Would the cars all not require any, I guess, repair?
Well,
Once they're sold, like they're ready to be inspected and registered?
Yeah, of course. It depends. Buy a car they need work, so we're gonna fix them and make sure they required for the emission test and safety test pass, and we're good for sale.
Does anybody else have questions for Sam?
I don't.
Okay. So Sam, the only concern, so we have had other businesses in town that have Class 2 licenses. And sometimes what happens is if there's no guardrails on the particular license, the amount of cars that sit on the property grow and grow and grow to a point where there are complaints. So I appreciate that you're looking to do 5 to 8 cars. I'm in favor of supporting the license. I think that we should make sure that we just write on the license limit of 8 so that we don't end up with another 147 Eastern Ave situation that we had in the past.
Of course, I don't want to put a lot of cars, because I want to make sure we have enough for the customer for repair. So, and some cars for sale. So
Perfect. So
Will all used cars be stored, or cars for sale be stored outside?
yes,
Nothing
unless
inside.
we have a snowstorm or something,
Right, yeah.
we're gonna put them inside.
Great. So I will entertain a motion to approve the Class 2 license for Sam's Main Street Auto, Sam Ayub, 8 Main Street, with a limit of 8 cars maximum at any given time for sale.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will also entertain a motion to approve the licenses as listed on page 3 of the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sam, you are all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
You as well. Okay, Chief Shamshak, if you want to join us so we can take care of officers, so we can let them get back to work. So there he is.
Michael Sidora, yes.
Perfect. Chief Shamshak, you have the podium.
Michael Sidora is a resident of the city of Gloucester. He is originally from Connecticut. Michael attended Endicott College in 2020 in Beverly, where he earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and also completed his master's degree in Homeland Security. He was a Dean's List member and also played lacrosse there. Michael's first job was a police officer for the Defense Intelligence Agency. He attended the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center's Uniform Police Training Program for 13 weeks and graduated in October of 21. Roughly 2 years later, in January of 23, Michael attended the Massachusetts Municipal Police Training Committee Full-Time Academy in Lynnfield, Mass. This academy was 26 weeks and he graduated in July of 23 and began working as a police officer at Salem State University. In December of 2024, he began working for the Massachusetts Port Authority. While working there, he attended various training classes on radiation and nuclear detection. He was also a member of the Radiological Nuclear Detection Unit and attended police mountain bike training. In addition to working as a full-time police officer, Michael has also worked as a part-time assistant harbor master in the city of Gloucester since May of 23. In this position, he has been responsible for patrolling and maintaining the city's waterways, enforcing laws and city ordinances, as well as responding to emergencies on the water. In addition to his harbor master duties, in July of '24, he was appointed as a volunteer shellfish warden in the city of Gloucester to assist the Gloucester Shellfish Department when needed. Tonight, I'm recommending Michael Sador to the Board of Selectmen for employment as a full-time police officer. Michael is exceptionally qualified and highly motivated to work in municipal law enforcement. His exposure to campus law enforcement, court security enforcement, and federal law enforcement have given him great training opportunities. His father was also a distinguished law enforcement officer in the state of Connecticut. Mike's training and qualifications far exceed what a new recruit would possess if we were to hire a civilian applicant and invest significant training, time, and money to be on par with what Michael currently brings to the table already. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does the board have questions for Michael?
Pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
You came highly recommended. We were able to see your resume in the letter of interest before we got to the board meeting. So we were already well versed on what the chief just read to us. I will entertain a motion to appoint Michael Sador to the position of full-time patrol officer for a partial 3-year term ending 6/30 of '27 to fill a vacancy contingent upon passing drug and medical screening.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
He already has passed that, so that doesn't even need, we'll strike that from the motion.
Okay, so we'll strike that from the motion.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very nice boy.
Have a good night. Chief, you're staying up at the podium. Chief, if you want to give a little bit of history on Sergeant Leeway.
Sergeant Leeway joined our department in 2015. He started as a summer special officer, completed 400 hours, roughly, give or take, volunteer time to the town while he learned and completed the field training. He was hired subsequently full-time and promoted to detective in 2021 or 22. And just recently scored very well in our assessment center and was recently promoted to sergeant.
Great, congratulations. So I will entertain a motion to appoint current Detective Robert Leeway to the rank of sergeant.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Since we have PD in the room, I will entertain a motion to sign the successor contract with the Essex Police Association. To sign the successor contract with the Essex Police Association, subject to the approval at annual town meeting. We do have one piece of it. We're waiting for the second piece, so I'm going to entertain that the chairman.
Right, we have the memorandum of agreement that spells out what will be in the final draft. We're still working with the union to assemble the final draft, so the board could sign the memorandum of agreement this evening and authorize signature of the contract outside of the meeting, because all that is the same thing, but integrated into the contract.
So I will entertain a motion to sign that this evening.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have nothing else on the PD's agenda, so if you gentlemen want to leave, feel free. If you want to stick around, by all means. We're going to sign the union piece, which is the 3 pages that spells out their COLA, their post, the MOA. But we're going to sign the whole contract outside of a meeting. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Harbor Master Fiello, do you want to join us at the podium?
So,
On our agenda this evening, we have the next item as consider adding a deputy harbor master job title and wage to the wage and salary scale, possibly in place of the harbor master position with the possible adjustment to the assistant harbor master wage. So I know that you want to join us this evening, and before I go through kind of a history here, did you want to comment on this before I kind of go through the history of how we got here this evening?
The wage and scale, no, I don't have.
Okay, and anything else related to the harbor? No. No.
Are we speaking to the proposition of the police chief taking over the harbor master role? at
Yes,
this point?
we're going to talk about that right now.
Okay, so you do like my commentary?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So what I have is I have a handwritten or a typed up response that I should say. So I guess what I'd like to do is provide you guys with 2 of the 3 documents that I have. So the first document is an email that Brennan sent me in 2019 via email regarding my promotion from deputy harbor master to harbor master on the rate of pay. And that was 2019, so that was 5 years ago at $20 an hour. The only key point of that is just basically the date of that. That was my initial appointment. It was renewed in 2022. Second document is the current post. Documentation of the post commission with a highlight. Who falls under post and who doesn't fall under post. The reason I'm handing you this document is because I think the previous police chief had some concerns about who had to fall under post and who didn't for the new standard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, in the post commission document, before I read my statement, individuals not subject to the statute, and it clearly states that harbor masters and assistant harbor masters not appointed or employed as law enforcement officers by law enforcement agencies. So, to confirm with the email and the recent renewal of the appointment in 2022, I am appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Is that accurate information so far?
Correct.
Okay. So I have a third document that I don't think I'm going to need to share. I'm going to hold on to that one for now. But I think this is an issue that's it's come up in the past. This isn't a new discussion that we've had. It seems to come up a lot in my eyes, and I do have an opinion. So this is going to be my statement. So, Chief Shamshak, it goes without saying that you are very well versed on policing and have put the time and efforts in to become a great selection for the new police chief of Essex. You've risen through the ranks. You've seen challenges at each different level and navigated through those. Congratulations. Much like Chief Shamshak, I've also risen through the ranks with the Harbor Master Department. I was appointed as an assistant in 2010, promoted to deputy in 2013, and then to Harbor Master upon Chief Peter Silva's retirement in 2019. My appointment was renewed in July of 2022. I, again, like now Chief Shamshak, developed and continue to learn new skills to overcome challenges a Harbor Master faces along the way. As those with elected or appointed authorities in the room, not all decisions we make are met with favorable reactions. Important decisions require much thought, and at least for myself includes a handwritten list of pros and cons of said decisions. Someone once said to me, if you're making 100% of the people happy, you're not doing your job. As harbor master, the waterways decisions are based with safety in mind, and I make it a point to explain my decisions as to why or why not I might have made them. When I was appointed to harbor master in 2019, Brennan explained that I would report to Chief Francis. Essentially, it seemed a department head reported to a department head. To me, it sounded redundant, but I complied. Little discussion was held in regards to any salary increases, but the fact I had become harbor master was never been about the money. For efficiency reasons, I eliminated the need for a deputy. With minimal staffing and knowing I had been able to handle day-to-day operations as harbor master, I did not see a need. I had already begun the implementation of an online mooring system, which allows for most tracking and financials to be handled electronically. This continues to be a valuable program for both users and admins, Simone and myself. I worked hard along with Selectmen to implement a kayak rack storage at Canoma Point. Like with any change, was faced with initial opposition, but the program has had positive reviews from users and generates more financials for the town. In conjunction with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, we have begun offering safe boating classes at the Public Safety Building. I feel this is a great opportunity for community relations, much like the police car show, where the fire department's beginning dinner. Classes continue to be popular as new certification requirements have been recently implemented for boaters. I was also in place during the COVID pandemic. The waterways were the busiest they had been in years, and I worked closely with Chief Francis and his entire department to maintain safe operations on the waterways, as well as what we knew was a chaotic ramp. During and shortly after the pandemic, the Post Commission was created and new standards implemented for those with enforcement powers, as you can see. Chief Francis had some concerns regarding how our operational model was, and it was decided I would report directly to the Board of Selectmen. Through both the transition of myself from deputy to harbor master and later reporting directly to the Board of Selectmen, not Chief Francis, Chairwoman Perrine had some initial concerns and questions. This was mostly in regards to what I as a harbor master was, more importantly, what I was not able to do, and I did my best to answer those. I continue to offer any input in regards to questions and concerns the board may have. When Ms. Zingahara was elected, I explained to her I'm happy to answer any and all questions, as she had some as a newcomer. I have tried my best to work with the board to keep communication open, and other than some minor concerns that have been discussed, addressed, and resolved, to my knowledge, there are no glaring issues with myself as harbor master or the department as a whole. In short, the system seems to work, but the BOS, Board of Selectmen, has expressed their interest in the need to change the model so that Chief Shamshak would now have the title of harbor master. I would remain in place as a deputy based on an email from Brendan last week and still conduct day-to-day operations reporting to Chief Shamshak. I feel this is an unnecessary move by the board and seemingly a demotion for me. I can only assume that Chief Shamshak would agree he has enough on his plate as the newly appointed police chief and would hope that he would echo my sentiments and my intentions of continuing as harbor master, not deputy. As I said, I've been on the department for the last 15 years. I have developed relationships with those on the waterfront, marine owners, U.S. Coast Guard representatives, local harbor masters, the Canoma Point Association, and many others. I would urge the board to allow me to continue my role as harbor master and work laterally with Chief Shamshak and his department to provide the best possible coverage we can on the waterways of Essex. As with any department, there is always room for improvement, and I'm willing to work with those involved to improve any areas deemed needed. I simply do not think at this time the decision to give the chief the role as harbor master and devote me to deputy is the correct one, respectfully.
Thank you, Dan. So just a little bit of history going back to July of 2019. Historically, the police chief has always been the harbor master. And when Chief Peter Silva decided that he was going to retire, the incoming police chief, now retired police chief Paul Francis, had never been a boater. He was very uncomfortable being the harbor master. He had never been on a boat, didn't know the river, did not want to have the responsibility because he felt that he could not answer anything water related. So at the time, now retired police chief Silva said, Danny Fiello is my right-hand man. He does the day-to-day. He's great. You know, he's going to guide you. And he actually really encouraged Chief Francis to remain the harbor master. He felt that the oversight from the chief of police was a vital role. And Chief Francis just was adamant that he did not want to have that responsibility. He was concerned that if he answered something wrong, he would be in a position of liability or other. I think, Dan, so the Board of Selectmen has been discussing this since we knew that Police Chief Francis was going to retire. So there's been progression here, which is that you're right. When Chief Francis took over, he didn't want to be the harbor master. You were the logical choice. You were the deputy harbor master. You were promoted. You fell under Police Chief Francis. You reported to him. And then police reform happened and post-commission happened. And there was the concern that the harbor division was going to need to be trained to full-time academy standards, or potentially at the time, I think it was even the part-time academy, which you advocated for, to go to the part-time police academy. And at that point, Chief Francis, with the unknowns of police reform and post-commission, said, this is uncharted territory. We don't necessarily want to have, you know, the harbor master be a member of the police department, so to speak. So because he was concerned about post-commission and police reform, it was decided that the harbor division would answer to the Board of Selectmen, and reluctantly, because again, we are a group of volunteers that have a lot on our plate, and managing the harbor division wasn't one of those things. So it was always kind of known that should Police Chief Francis retire, the harbor master would revert back to the chief of police. When we wrote the job description for the now sitting chief, it was incorporated in there that we would like to know that the person stepping into the role would be willing to take on that role so that it could revert back from the Board of Selectmen back to the chief of police. So I think that for us, it's more about security, liability, enforcement management, and having somebody that's in that role 365 days a year be the person in charge of that department. You do a good job. We recognize that. I feel sad to hear you say demotion. I realize that the deputy harbor master is not the harbor master, but we also looked at the wage and salary scale and bumped that pay up a little bit to let you know that you are recognized and appreciated. So we do want you to make more money to do, you know, that job. And I know that Chief Shamshak does want you to still be in charge of the day-to-day in the mooringinfo.com and the mooring fields and transient moorings. And I know that he wants to keep you as his right-hand man. So I feel sad to hear you say demotion. I don't think of it as a demotion. I think of it as just shifting the department a little bit to have the chief, to have it resume back at the chief where it always was. So that's kind of my sentiment and kind of the progression of how we got here. So I'd like to hear from the rest of the board.
Well, I think as part of the job description for the chief, we considered harbor master and harbor master skills for that position.
Right.
Precisely for that reason.
Yeah, and like you said, that we are a board that changes, and you know, it's all new to me, and have, you know, I guess for me, it's a matter of security as far as having the police chief be the harbor master. But, you know, I'm not on the water the way you are, so I have my limited experience with this.
So I would encourage the board to, I guess, I know Chief expressed some willingness to take on the role as harbor master. Is there a way for the board to choose that I stay as harbor master and report to the police chief? The way that post is written and the way we are able to report. I know it still, to me, sounds kind of redundant, but to me, you have the ability to keep the harbor master as myself working laterally with Chief Shamshak. I think his willingness to be the harbor master might be slightly overshadowed by the need for him to have like the whole package of trainings, whereas I've made some progressions with the trainings significantly. So you're kind of back to square one with what he would have to do training wise, not just on a day-to-day basis. It's you know, there's stuff that the Harbor Council reaches out to for him to be trained. He's got the police officer locked down. I get that. That's a piece of the puzzle. But my request is the board entertain the idea to keep the harbor master civilian, working laterally with the police chief, because it's a model that previously was in Essex under Chief Silva. I think there's a few in the room that can speak to this, that many communities work where the harbor master is civilian. It's not cost benefit analysis. You're even giving me, I think, 72 cents more an hour to do the deputy work. The role has not changed. It's the title that I've really worked 15 years of my life and been proud to be the harbor master for the town of Essex. So I really urge the board to entertain the idea of a possible lateral, either reporting to Tom, or I remain harbor master and work with Tom, because I think that model is working currently. I don't think it's broken. Like I said, I think there's room for improvement, but I really urge the board. Maybe the decision doesn't get made tonight, and maybe it gets tabled. I don't know, but that's my urge to the board, to kind of take it under consideration and take into consideration what I said tonight, to take into consideration the trainings that he would need, not only from a state level to get those trainings, but you talk about liability. If he's the harbor master for the town of Essex, that Essex River is dynamic. I know he's got a boat. I don't know how much boating he's done on the Essex River. But it's a challenging river, and at this point, that module is not working. So I think if possible, it could be tabled for further discussion.
Dan, my question for you is, so I'm sure that the board is happy to sleep on it and consider. If in fact the board does decide to go forward with having the police chief, the harbor master, are you willing to stay on as the deputy harbor master?
I'd have to really think about that. That's not an overnight decision.
Okay, all right.
I'm not going to make that decision in 15 years of what I've given to this community.
Quick question is, the training required by the harbor master have to be by the harbor master or within the harbor master's department?
So there's multiple trainings. You can speak to this better, but as we know, we're going to later on in the agenda have a signature of a waiver, 270-day waiver, and this will be your third waiver with us, correct?
Correct.
So there are modules that need to be completed over time, and the Harbor Master Training Council continues to give waivers till all of those things are completed. So
That's more of Rosemary is on the Harbor Training Council. She'd be able to speak more to it. We spoke a little bit on the last renewal. Alba had some questions, and I get it looks suspicious maybe if it's been expired, but it's kind of at the trainer level. So if the trainings aren't attainable,
Right.
so there's one training that they're going to have coming up in, I think, 2 weeks, and I'm going to be in Aruba. But since our last conversation for the waiver to be signed, that's what the council has come up with. There's a lot of components to put the trainings together. So having progressed through 7 or 8 of those, I know it seems like a lot of time, and the waivers have been requested to be renewed. There's no limit to the extensions on the waivers. And it's a piece of the puzzle that kind of indemnifies the town more. And I try to make as much of the trainings as I can. It's just simply that, like I said, there's been one in the last, when I was asked about if I was able to complete all the trainings in 270 days, the short answer is no, because it's the trainings that need to be offered. And if the trainings aren't offered, therefore I can't take them. So they're working on that at that level. They're doing some online stuff, but they have to get that implemented and approved by some different state boards. So it's more of the reason why I don't have a few of the other components is because simply they haven't been offered since even I applied for my initial waiver. So
all the trainings have to be accomplished by the harbor master, not by somebody within the harbor master's department, the deputy or an assistant.
So even as deputy, I try to go to these trainings.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get reimbursed, so it's minimal cost to the town.
Yeah.
We have an oil spill response that I have 2 assistants signed up for. That's kind of a component to that on May 12th. But we're going to get grant money back to backfill that salary. So it's like from a cost benefit analysis, there's very little cost to the town. There are different in-service trainings that we do, that I give my assistants. But the on-paper trainings in those classroom modules are typically at the training council level.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Jan. So we'll table that and
thank you.
we'll think about that.
But I do have a question for the board.
Well,
because-
I'm going to actually vote to accept that to the wage and salary scale,
Well,
so that we.
But
at least-
the proposal that I have would be taking off the harbor master and putting in deputy harbor master.
So you want to.
So you could leave both, well, you could leave
We
both
could
of
leave
them on,
both.
is what I'm gonna suggest. So if you end up with a civilian harbor master, it'll be the same rate as if you end up with a civilian deputy harbor master.
Right.
And I'm gonna recommend that both of those entries be $23 and that the entry for the assistant be $18. That's all I need to know right now to prepare for town meeting.
Yeah, so I will entertain a motion to change the wage and salary scale to leave the civilian harbor master as listed, changing the rate from 22.52 to 23, as well as the civilian deputy harbor master at 23.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Just one more question. Has the board looked at comparable departments and how they operate their water? Every community works very differently. So I just encourage you in the time that you're kind of mulling this decision over to kind of look around, because there's no one really standard.
Right.
Many communities work vastly different. There's not a state standard. And I think in a lot of communities, you'd be surprised to find that they have a harbor master civilian. There's one community that has a civilian harbor master that the police chief falls under as an assistant harbor master. So I really encourage in this time you're going to take, just because it worked before for Essex doesn't necessarily mean it would work now. And I
But
think
you're suggesting though that if you remain harbor master, that's fine. You're not looking for changes there.
no.
And one of the comments, just to your point, Dan, is that we have looked, and one of the things that we find with other towns that have civilian harbor master is typically they're full-time. So that's one of the things that makes us different than those communities, is that you're, not only are you part-time, but you're very part-time, right? So sometimes, especially in the summer, living on a river, it's almost a full-time job. And you do have a full-time job, so dedicating as much time as you potentially need. That's one of the thought processes that we went through, which is that the chief of police works, I mean, in theory, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, but in real life, he's there 5 days a week. So he's there to answer the call from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It just gives us a little bit more ability for management of the harbor division. But
Has there been any issues with the response that's happened in the 9 to 5 timeframe?
you know what, we're going to table this, just the discussion's getting long, so it's not, and I think this is not a personal decision. We think you've done a great job. This is just about the management and the oversight of that department. I think we'll sleep on it and just think about it some more. So, but I don't want to turn this into a back and forth, because I know you could make your case all day long, and we respect, we want to respect everybody's time. So let us think about this, and we'll talk about this at a later meeting. But I do want to, well, I have you in the room. I do want to entertain a motion to vote to approve and sign the temporary waiver of the training for Dan Fiello. This is the 270-day waiver that we were talking about.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. So that waiver is all set.
Just one last question based on my existing appointment. And this is to Brendan because you weren't able to answer it last week, and I don't know if you have new information, but.
Oh, I'm going to answer that for you.
Okay.
If in fact we do make the decision to go in the other direction, I think that I'm going to entertain that motion, having you stay the harbor master until June 30th. So there would be no reason to rescind your appointment. You've not done anything that warrants us rescinding it. There's nothing egregious. There's no complaints.
Right.
This is strictly because there's been a structural change in the town government. So I would not see any reason to not have you stay harbor master until June 30th when that appointment ran out.
Thank you.
Yeah, if this is a discussion about whether there's a lifetime appointment for harbor master, there isn't. We've already looked into this.
What the?
Okay. Let me see, is there anything else? Okay, I am gonna go over to the town administrator's report.
Okay, so the first item in my report has to do with where we are with the Economic Development Committee's recommendations. And there were several different portions of that we talked about at the last meeting. One of them has to do with the Grove Cottage rental periods. There was a chart that was provided to the board at the last meeting that suggested certain fees for certain periods of time, but it wasn't nailed down to actual hours of the day. It was half day, full day, that type of thing. And so I know that Chairman Perrine was working with the chair of the Economic Development Committee and one of its members to further define that. I don't know where that process stands.
So the chair of the EDC and member Donna Roy were hoping to get together this weekend to narrow this down and to give us a decision. And they've asked that we table this until our next meeting. They're not quite ready to provide us with the detail we asked for.
I think there was also input. I was speaking with the selectman's assistant, and Pam suggested that perhaps the hours that you're looking at need to be tailored to the hours that people would most likely want to rent. Because nine to
2.
9 to 2?
And then 4 to.
Right. Generally, people want to come in and start at what, 11 would set up? And yeah. And so if you're going to do that, you'd.
To 2 or 3? Yeah.
The point is that if you move that beginning of that first block up, then you might need to move the other one up, just to
Right.
give you that input.
And I think that's why they went early, was to give it time for them to clean up after they're done and to leave to get the second block filled, but we'll leave that up to them. But yes,
okay.
I will make sure I saw Jody is actually online, so I'm sure she's hearing this discussion and taking that into consideration.
Okay, the next aspect of their work has to do with electric service to the pavilion and restrooms. It hasn't been attempted yet, but there is an excavator on site, and they're going to try to dig across from the concession stand to the new Folsom Pavilion. And when that gets done, if they get sufficient depth, then an electrical contractor will put the pipes in the ground the same day, and they'll cover it up.
If there isn't sufficient depth, then there will be no electricity.
No, then we look at whether we encase it in concrete, because there's less depth required if it's encased. There's also potentially, depending on the grade, you could build the grade up, and that's also qualifies. So until we dig, we won't know, but there are a number of options. Town trash receptacles on the causeway, 3 of them have been procured. They're with the DPW being set up, and I'm sure Sean is going to call me for deployment very soon on those. And then the downtown landscaping, maintenance and improvements. We did go out to Paglia Park with one of the volunteers that's going to help maintain the flowers and water the flowers this year. She's going to help us lay out where the 3 stone benches are supposed to come back, so that when they get placed, they're in the correct orientation, not just for this year, but when we build into a larger plan that the Economic Development Committee had put together. We'll be talking about that plan and funding the permitting for it, and the actual money for the things that are going to be necessary. I'm going to bring that up for the fall town meeting. We also are working with the EDC on putting additional planters on traffic islands in the downtown area, and those are going to be ordered soon. And then we'll work with a landscaping contractor to put the correct contents in those planters. And then the landscaping contractor, we will work with them for an initial cleanup and mulch, and then in the mid-season, making sure the weeds in the street gutters and sidewalk cracks are taken care of. So all of that's coming along very well. I don't know if the board had any other questions on it at this point. The next item in my report was just to indicate that we did go through a formal process to arrive at the selection of Robert Weway as the next sergeant. There was both a written assessment and an oral panel, and now Sergeant Weway scored the highest on both. And so that was just to go over what the town did to arrive at that. I don't know if there are any questions at this point in time. Beyond that, we have, I have some information to report. Chairman Perrine and I sat down with Chief Shamshak about different things that he's considering doing. One of the things I wrote in my report is that he is willing to serve as harbor master, and during the interview process indicated that if that was going to be the choice, that he would take the necessary training. But that is something that the board will be considering now between meetings. I explained how he was going to recommend Sergeant Weway, which is done. And he also presented an idea about the town boat launch, and maybe Chief, is the chief still here? Is he out? Okay. So we'll present it for him. He has the idea that perhaps a limited number of people who are not residents should get could be offered by lottery a chance to launch and park in Essex at a premium price, like $750 a season, to see if there's interest in it. So is that something that the board wants to consider now or anytime in the future
Why would we want to do that? Just for the funds?
for the money?
For the revenue.
So if you were talking about maybe 10, but if all 10 of them showed up, there's your whole dirt lot gone. So it's an idea, but I said, we had to bring it to the full board for consideration.
And if you have, if you're paying a premium, you're going to want to use it a lot.
All the time, probably.
So it could, deduct significantly from the town of Essex users.
And that is also listed as a separate agenda item, but we can talk about it now. Is it something you want to talk about now, or do you want to think about it and bring it back? Is it not an idea you want to go forward with for
I
this
personally
season?
think it's a great idea. I feel that, excuse me? So, yeah, I mean, personally, I think it's a great idea. We know people are using it that aren't residents in town. So I think that if you had something like that, I don't know if, would we be able to get it ready for this season? I don't know.
I think you would have the lottery, and yes, you could get it ready for this season.
How frequently is the parking maxed out?
On a nice weekend, there are people that,
Park on the side streets.
Last year was quiet, to be honest with you.
Yeah, is it like, 20 times a summer or?
I don't think so, because the weather hasn't been all that great, but if you do hit a weekend that's really prime,
Yeah, so.
you're gonna have the residents in the paved lot, and then there's gonna be residents in the dirt lot.
And the residents may fill it up anyway. Fill up the
They
parking.
may.
Yeah, on their own.
So, that's why I say it's maybe something you want to think about. It was an idea, so we figured we need to bring it up now, because if you're gonna implement it for this season, you need to at least start thinking about it.
Sure.
Let's keep thinking. We have it on the agenda. We can talk about it later.
The next item is the siting of the municipal fuel depot. I think the board saw that we went out in the field. We located the actual sewer line that was of concern, because we didn't want to put a concrete pad on top of it. We have the line's orientation. We know exactly where it goes. And I talked just today with the engineer, and he said that he is going to use a Google Earth picture to put a recommended orientation on the plan. Really, it's going to be when we have a contractor on site, they're going to know the exact dimensions, and it's going to say exact orientation to be staked out in the field. We'll have everybody back out there again, including the engineer, to make sure that everyone is good with that placement. He's also looking at the different options for RFID tags on the filler nozzle. And there are definitely options, and we'll have more information on that soon. But I don't know if you have any questions on where that fuel depot might go, because there is a location that is workable.
No, so seeing that it is going to be that the fill-up station is going to all be on one side, I am less stressed. At first, I was a little bit nervous. And also, I believe that I mentioned to you, BZ, last week, that just knowing that, when people are going to fuel up, if there's a way to avoid our days that we do have the dump open, would be great. I don't know that we could say it definitely never, you can never fuel up, because we never know when there's going to be a need.
For trucks, like police can come in and go, I mean, that's not going to make a difference. But fire trucks, they can choose their times. DPW can fill up early in the morning before anything's open. So I think that's a good suggestion. And I think we can implement that. Okay, the next item is Section 3A compliance, potential corrective action. And now I know, since this report was written, that we will have a bit of corrective action. When the model was run in Essex for Section 3A compliance, it included certain numbers that if you filled a number in one place and left other numbers blank, it would come out with a density that was not really as dense as what the model was showing. This was a problem for numerous communities. And in fact, the model today, although they give guidance as to how to avoid that problem, we ran ours very early, and the model today is the same model. It just comes with better instructions. The issue is Essex will certainly, within the downtown mixed-use zoning district, be able to meet the number of required units or theoretical units for multifamily, but it will not meet the density based on how the state has looked at our model results. It took a long time after we turned it in for them to work through all the communities. They finally got to us and they said, we don't think this meets it. So we went back to MAPC, who ran the model for us. They explained that they understand exactly what the state is saying, and they are willing to work with us on the corrective action. They also are going to be the recipient of a grant from the Massachusetts Housing Partnership to pay for any additional work they need to do. So there'll be no additional funds necessary from the town. They've already come up with 3 different possible solutions, and the planning board is looking at a solution that would just change the boundaries of the district that was picked into tighter areas, and the density will then therefore go up because of that. There'll be more on that as the planning board works on it, but that will be happening in the run-up to the fall town meeting, and there will be a proposal brought to the fall town meeting. Essex is one of the communities that does not need to be compliant with 3A until December 31st. Any questions on that right now? The next section, next item is preliminary annual town meeting motions. So I've assigned, as I usually do, some suggested motion readers, and I'll just go down through this. If you have an indication that someone else wants to read it, we can do that. If you have any question about the motion itself, Article 1 would be Alva with the surveyor Bark and Lumber. Article 2, town report, would be Peter. Article 3, which is to fund the the year 1 of the police contract that you just signed an MOA on tonight. That would be Ruth, since she worked on the bargaining team. Where I have Jody Harris for a number of things, I might be getting from the Finance Committee other names. So I start with the chair, and then they usually tell me by meeting night if it's someone else, because they'll be meeting soon. So Jody Harris would be the one reading the new police vehicle article. And then after that would be the town's general budget article. And then we have Bob Teal, who is the representative to the Essex North Shore Agricultural Technical School District, which would be Article 6 for their annual budget. With respect to the override town meeting article and the general article for the school budget for the Manchester Essex Regional School District budget for FY26, I'll be asking the chair of the committee who, if they have people picked out already, to read those motions. So I have left those blank.
We have the vice chair of the school committee with us. Hi, Kate. Historically, it's been the member of the school committee that reads the two MERSD articles, and where obviously Chris is the chair, but he's Manchester. Do you think he'll want to read these? Okay.
All right, just let me know, and whoever it is, we'll put them in for these two articles. Thank you. Then Article 9, we have Alva reading the wage and salary scale article for the employees, and then Article 10, the elected officials part of the wage and salary scale, also Alva. We have Ruth for the Town Septic Betterment Fund, Nick Ellis for Article 12, which is going to be postponed, and then Nick or someone else on the Board of Public Works for the sewer budget for 26. Article 14 is not going to be needed either. That would be postponed. Nick again for the Water Enterprise Fund budget for FY26. And then I have Lisa down for all of the zoning articles. She, of course, will also update me if she's going to suggest other people to read some of them. But sometimes she reads all of them. I have Jody down for the establishment of the revolving funds for newspaper advertisements for 3 committees. Then Ruth for the sewer flow for Costello Construction and Remodeling. I have Peter for the lease at, let's see, this would be at Shays. And then Alva for the lease, for renewing the lease that could go to the Historical Society for the Legion Hall. I say that because in that one, we have to actually go out to bid, and then they can be one of the people that responds. Article 29, Ruth, for the change in the bylaws for penalty for operating business without a required license. Ruth again for the new municipal fuel depot. Nick Ellis for the new pickup truck for the water department. Brings us to Article 32. Nick for the mower for the DPW. Postpone Article 33, which was going to be sewer grinder pumps. Nick again for the Water Enterprise Fund to purchase and install a security camera at the water plant. Ruth for potential reallocation of existing Community Preservation Act money that is currently allocated to a potential tennis courts in this location at Memorial Park to instead reallocate for pickleball or tennis down at the Centennial Grove. 36 is the regular article for Community Preservation Act allocations. There are no special projects that have been applied for that I am aware of at this time. Then I have Peter down for the fiber optic network switch replacements. Jody for a variety of changes to the existing FY25. Oh, actually, no, this is the police weapons purchase, replacement of the police weapons. 39 is the operational budget for FY25. And in that motion, there'll be the snow and ice budget, wiping that out, the deficit that's there. Additional money for this year's FICA budget. And I've just heard today there's probably going to be a need for some fire department wages, which we'll add to the motion. Then we have Chair Harris.
So that would go here and not with the wage and salaries?
No, this is
For a shortfall in their budget.
yeah, not for what they're gonna make. It's the actual budget, and it's this expiring fiscal year, not the next. Article 40 is replenishment of the Finance Committee's reserve fund. That would be Jody or designee. And then Jody for the unpaid bills from past fiscal years. And then there are 2 citizens petitions articles. So that's how I have it set up now. Are there any other questions or comments? And then Island Road Culvert Replacement Grant Funding. On May 8th, there'll actually be a meeting involving the trustees and people from the Ipswich River Watershed Association. You did discuss this a little bit at your last meeting. The idea will be to try to find state funding. And the trustees will actually do all the heavy lifting. The town would be the submitter. So I'm going to recommend, and there are 2 grants they're currently looking at. We're going to see the best fit. I'm going to recommend that the board authorize the chairman to sign whatever documents are necessary for whichever grant or grants are available for the Island Road Culvert Replacement project when such documents become available.
I will entertain a motion to have the chairman sign documents outside of a meeting for whichever grant becomes available for the Island Road Culvert Replacement Project.
So moved. Are they, are there grants out this spring, summer?
The DER grant is opening very soon. That's what we used twice over on Apple Street. And then they're looking at the CZM grant that's open now, but they're not sure if it will meet all the criteria. So at least there's a couple possibilities.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do you have a time on the Island Road Culvert meeting on May 8th? Is it a in-person, Zoom?
It's a Zoom meeting. It's May 8th at, I want to say, 12 to 2. Do you want to be involved? I know, Peter, you wanted to, but you're going to be
Unavailable.
elsewhere.
Yeah.
Not available? Okay, I'm going to Zoom in.
Okay, I'll make sure you get that.
Oh my God, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I may be able to
6,
zoom in, but I don't want to count on that.
7 deer.
Well, so why don't we post us in case we can both Zoom in?
Well, that means,
I'm not gonna
that means the
participate.
public needs to understand the link, and I don't think that's what they're
Oh, okay.
expecting.
Then one of us will join via Zoom, and if you have the opportunity, it's you.
Okay.
Okay,
But if
And
not,
I
Ruth
will
will
let,
cover it.
I
If
will
it's-
let you know if I can.
perfect.
If you don't hear from me, that means I can't.
I'll get both
Right.
of you the information. Okay.
How's it going? Did
They
they
haven't
do the
got-
school thing?
Not yet.
can I just go back to this document, the Centennial Grove? Are we going to discuss this later in this agenda?
That's also on the agenda, yeah.
Thanks. I couldn't find it.
I will entertain a motion to vote to approve a request from the Board of Public Works to transfer the total of $13,425 from various cemetery accounts to their fiscal year 2026 budget pending town meeting approval.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. We received in our packets a request from it's a document that was prepared by the Finance Committee, escalated to the Board of Selectmen, which is a data request that they would like submitted to MERSD for some financial information that's going to help them to better understand the MERSD budget and the need for an override. So the board obviously is in receipt of that. Did anybody have any comments, questions, additions, or is everybody pleased with the way that it's spelled out and ready to submit that to the superintendent?
Not knowing the intricacies of all this, as somebody that does feel that this is necessary information to help, and to what end?
This request is informed by the Finance Committee.
Right.
And so, yes, I would say that they're making this suggestion to you as an advisory board. The regional agreement indicates that the selectmen in the town may ask the question. So they put together what they felt was a good scope of information. They're passing it to you and recommending.
Sure. Understood.
Did you have any?
No, I read over it. I feel that we've asked similar questions in the past, so I'm fine.
You're fine with it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to approve I'll entertain a motion to send the data request to Superintendent Bowden as a actual data request so that there is a time frame on receiving the information back. So as a freedom of information request, I assume, so that it actually has a deadline.
Yeah, public records
A public
request.
records
Yeah.
request. So I will entertain a motion to send this as a public records request to the superintendent.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to appoint William Gauze to the Finance Committee for a partial year, 3-year term ending 6/30/27.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is the consideration of selecting a representative as an alternative to the Metropolitan Area Planning Council.
An alternate.
An alternate,
Yeah,
sorry.
so right
And
now,
Aaron.
you are the representative.
And I
And,
don't get too many of them.
right, and so our town planner has indicated that she is willing to do it.
She's been to a bunch, yeah.
Right, and you realize that, she works directly for the board, and as long as you're okay with that, we could ask her to submit formally, and then you'll have 2 people, and then you can
Yep.
determine who's gonna see what.
Yep.
Is that all right?
That's great.
So you'll need to,
So I'll vote.
move
Yeah.
on that.
So I will entertain a motion to select Val Massard as the representative, as an alternate to the Metropolitan Area Planning Council.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And again, we're considering an appointing a delegate to the Community Preservation Committee to serve in the stead of a selectman. Does anyone have any names?
We wanted a board member.
Not necessarily. It can be a representative of the Board of Selectmen, but
Bylaw allows either a selectman or a designee, and unless one of you wants to serve directly. It can also remain vacant until such time that you come across someone and you can bring it to the board's attention.
I don't mind serving on it if people,
It meets maybe twice a year.
right.
do you want to serve on it?
I'm interested in the topics, yes.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to appoint Peter Fippen to the Community Preservation Committee.
Before you say, yeah,
I
they
actually-
meet Wednesday at
Wednesday
6.
night.
I can't make that meeting.
But, well,
But
okay,
that's
the next
okay,
one,
that's
right?
fine. So I'll actually make the motion, so you can second it. So I'll make the motion to appoint Peter Fippen to the Community Preservation Committee.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll tell Jay, that's,
Great.
Let them know that I can't make it.
then you can't make it, right?
I've got 2 things going on that I can't even make the planning board.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the same night.
Yep.
That's
That's a 7.
board.
Yep.
I will entertain a motion to sign the Fire Department retirement recognition documents.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to appoint John Simon to the position of probationary firefighter EMT for a partial 1-year term ending 6/30/2025, contingent upon successful completion of drug and medical testing.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to appoint Hugh Gist to the position of probationary firefighter EMT for a partial 1-year term ending 6/30/2025, contingent upon successful completion of drug and medical testing.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is to consider changing the municipal parking lot rules to disallow or otherwise organize overnight parking.
So, Alva, this is something you asked me to bring up in the winter, asked me to bring it up in the spring, because there was a time when we had a lot of overnight parking, and the people weren't grouping their vehicles in the same spot. They were kind of spread out in different areas of the lot, making it more difficult for the DPW. Is it something where you were looking to suggest to the board to prohibit overnight, or are you looking for
No,
some
I'm not,
grouping?
if it's winter time and we know you can't park out on the roads, I have no problem. It was more to have them consolidated in one area. They still picked to me a pretty big area. However, I don't know that a lot of people park all the way in the back row, so maybe it's not a big deal. But
Do you think it makes sense to check in with the DPW and see if they have issues with plowing around the vehicles, or if they have a recommendation?
I had talked to Anthony. He had said, yeah, it'd be nice if they weren't, because they were all over the place. They
Right,
were,
yeah.
one was here, one was over here. then I think the police talked to all of the vehicles that were in there and put them in the back row. That was fine. It's spread out so that there may be a vehicle, 2 spaces open, a vehicle. So
Could it be designated?
so that's what I was thinking, that we had an area that was smaller or, here, but you never know, because it could be more cars, people's kids get cars and now there's additional cars that need to go in there. But just having it in one area, I think, was a good
Right,
workaround.
so it sounds like we're actually all ready to manage it. I only brought it up because you wanted to talk about it with
Yeah,
the board.
no, I think it was, like I said, after, Paul had somebody check out all the vehicles, and then all of a sudden I went there one day and they were all parked in the back of the lot, and I thought, okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep parking because of, off-street parking or flooding issues at somebody's, location.
Yeah, so it sounds like they found a way to manage it. I know the police did an educational campaign. They found the cars that were there. They put flyers out. Everybody checked in and they figured it out.
Yeah. And the cars that are parking there overnight are residents. They live in Essex, they're taxpayers. So,
That's why I'm saying, it was the fact that there would be one in different places, so then.
You just wanted it organized so they can plow.
I wanted so that the plow can plow and the businesses can use the parking for going in the businesses. That was my concern.
No, that makes sense. It sounds like we have that handled by just a conversation, and I think if it happens again in the winter, we'll just do it again.
Well, the only thing I would think about is, do we want to put up signs in the winter that say residents overnight parking would be here?
I can work with the chief on that. I'll take the note
And
of
I
it.
don't even know, you can talk to them, I don't know if it needs to be resident, because again, if somebody's visiting, there's no parking on the streets.
Right.
And it's mainly that end of Martin Street and Winthrop
Yeah.
and Pickering, I think those are the residents that had been parking their vehicles there.
I'll work with the chief this winter.
So next is the request from the YMCA to hold their fundraiser at Centennial Grove Pavilion in August. And Donna and Jody have asked that we potentially table this until they have a solution to the rental down at Centennial Grove. So because it's in August, it seems like it's far enough away that we can hold on that, Brendan.
Yeah, and the board has the information. This is a fundraiser that benefits Essex, et cetera.
Right.
So you have all that. I will let them know that the board will take it up once the Economic Development Committee provides more information.
Which is hopefully at the next meeting that we have some more information. So we'll just table that to the next meeting. The next item on the agenda is to consider increasing the per player annual fee for leagues using the Field of Dreams. So if you can give us some.
So we've been at $10 per player per season. So if you're a member of a league, that league collects your $10, and the number of people in the league times 10 is what we get. Unfortunately, the price of the spring spruce up and then the fall close up of the Little League fields has become more and more expensive. And I'm of the mind that we need to double it. It needs to be $20. The leagues can collect that even if it's a surcharge and get the money to the town. At this point in time, we only have a budget of $2,000, and we're constantly finding that we have to dip into things like the town property budget to come up with the delta. Because like this year, for example, it's $2,500 for a budget of $2,000. If we move to a new per player fee, at least it will start to relieve some of that. And like I said, it's been $10 ever since, it must be 20 years now, okay?
Well, if we're losing money on it, then it needs to go up.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm suggesting $20, because the whole point was to leave it. It's difficult enough for some families to come up with a Little League fee, let alone a charge that has to go on top of that. So, could we use more money? Sure, but it's one of those things you're trying to temper with the ability of a family to afford it. So is the board okay with the $20 starting this season?
Yes. I will entertain a motion to increase the per player annual fee for leagues using the Field of Dreams to $20 per player.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So next on our agenda is circling back to the idea of a non-resident boat launch season pass. Is this something that we want to table and bring up at the next meeting, or have you done any thinking about it since we kind of brought it up at the beginning? Do you want to think about it over the next 2 weeks and bring it back?
I think so. It'd be nice to find out you know, how busy
The
it
dirt lot
actually
is.
currently, yeah.
Okay,
And that, is that
I'll
what it
find
would
out.
be, just the dirt lot?
just the dirt lot, not the center lot, not the center parking.
Yeah, that makes a little difference.
So I think we can probably ask the police chief about that because I know that they do enforcement back there, so they're
I
gonna be.
will.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And the same thing holds true here, which is again, asking about renting the Centennial Grove. I think we'll table this to the next meeting because we're waiting to hear back from Jody and Donna. And next is reviewing the Centennial Grove regulations with respect to planning for the increased rentals of amenities at Centennial Grove to third parties.
So, you know, this just follows on, you're talking about the rates, and we know that that's coming at the next meeting. But the Grove regulations themselves, at the last meeting, we talked about a couple of things. And the board was gonna give some thought to it. So if you're having a small event, say you're at the cottage and it's contained within the cottage, even if there's alcohol, do you need a police detail? That's a question that came up. I don't know if you had a chance to talk about it. But what that does is it adds a fee of like $400 and something to the rental. Certainly, if it's a large event open to the public and you're gonna have alcohol, I think that just goes without saying. But the Economic Development Committee wanted me to ask the board about that.
So I know that I did, to be honest with you, I think it was Chief Francis that I had talked to, and he's like, if there's alcohol and there's water, you don't really want to mix those two. So, and it's kind of out there, meaning, you know, how do you control it?
And I think that they looked at other places like Tux Point, and at Tux Point, you don't need a police detail for an event,
What's the liability?
even if there's alcohol.
What's the liability?
It's on the town.
Yeah,
No, they have to get a one-day liquor liability as part of the rental.
Okay.
It's not on the town. So, and you can think about it some more. This was just something that came up.
I have the same concern as you. I think that drinking alcohol and being on the water, especially so far down on Centennial Grove, is, for me, it's a liability. If somebody is drinking too much and falls in the lake, by the time somebody calls 911 and we get rescue out there, you know, when you have a police detail, they're on site. They have a radio at their ready and they can call for help. So
All right, so
we can table it and keep thinking about it.
keep thinking about it. So those are the only two things that I was gonna bring up, the police detail provision and then the fees, but we know you're working on the fees. I don't know if anyone else had
I
any
do.
other questions. Yes,
So this was written up in 2016.
yes.
So like I'm looking at, it talks about no fires,
What page?
page 2. It talks about no fires, and then it says cooking only in a charcoal grill or hibachi. So there's no mention about safe removal of ashes or anything like that. That I just like,
We can
just
add
dump
that.
it, it could end up
I
starting a
can, I
fire.
can talk to the fire department about what they'd want to see in there.
That was all I was thinking. And then the other thing is that the Centennial Grove, again, this is on number 8. It says, is open subject to conditions set forth here in blah, 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 from sunrise to sunset. So, but I just didn't know if whether or not we want to put summer hours for like when Dory's there. Is it still open all those hours?
It's,
Or?
no, it's not open on those hours.
Yeah, so that's why I was
But it
kind of
it
like.
does say
open before Dory?
it's open until 9 and after 1.
Yeah.
And it says here, let's see,
Well, there's no times there though.
right. So you, to number 8, we could add that.
We could just add
Yeah.
the times, just so that, you know, somebody new coming into town.
Well, so it will be more than times though. It'll be dates and times. Because it only,
ranges.
Well, it would be,
well, it
any-
won't start until
it's any time
mid-June.
that Camp Dory is in session is all you have to say.
Right.
Because
Okay.
the days of the week and they change and all that, so.
I just don't want to say closed from 9 to 1 and people assume that's all year round. It's strictly when Camp Dory is in session.
When Camp Dory is in session. So far, we've got the fire department, I'm gonna get some information there, the Camp Dory thing. I don't need to do this yet because we're gonna come in with the fees and you're gonna think about the police. Is there anything else?
I didn't have anything on these.
Okay, we'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Next, BZ, if you can update us on the parcel unknown.
So our title examiner, Brian Barbary, has done some very, very detailed work. I think you can see from what I provided to the board. And he said, in his understanding, he's really on the brink of getting to the next level with this thing. He is suggesting that it's worthwhile to continue. He's not finding signs where the trail is just going to end cold. And so what the board has been asked is, in the past, is whether you want to put another $1,000 into it. If you do, I recommend you don't do that until July 1, because we have limited legal funds left right now.
So, and we've done it twice now, so is it?
This is the third time.
This is the third,
This
yeah.
is the third time, but I'm saying we've done it twice, so has it been $1,000 each time?
Yes, so this will be $4,000 if you authorize another 1,000, that would be the fourth one. 1,000 three times, and this would be 1,000 another time.
It's probably $40,000 worth of work.
Oh, we were told by
We were
council
told by council over
100,000.
100,000. Yeah. So I think he's done a remarkable job. The amount of information he has is unbelievable.
He actually understands it.
I know. It's crazy. I will entertain a motion to approve another $1,000 for research of parcel unknown to Brian Barbary for his research for the parcels right off Route 128, not payable until after July 1st of 2025.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to sign the Town of Essex Selectmen Citizenship Award. And then, so let me take that motion first.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Then we need to talk about who is going to present that award, which is Wednesday, May 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the high school during the awards and scholarship night. So it's my recommendation that be Peter or Alva. So as we know, I am not running unopposed for the seat of selectman.
Yep.
I have Annie Cameron is running against me, and because the seat will be unknown for the 28th, I don't want to put myself into it, which historically I've been doing it, but just because my seat's unknown, I want to make sure that we have somebody ready to present.
Do I get a birthday cake?
You do?
We'll bake you birthday cake.
That's my birthday. So I guess I'll, if you don't want to.
I've done it a few times early on.
Okay. I could
This is
present.
actually kind of fun. You've
It's
done
fun.
it, right?
So Alva, you're happy to do it?
I'm happy to do it.
Okay, so Alva will be presenting the award on May 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Were there any items that were not anticipated?
I have none.
Excellent. Reminders, the planning board will host a public hearing regarding proposed changes to the zoning bylaws in the town hall auditorium on Wednesday, April 16th, which is this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Then the next regular Board of Selectmen's meeting will take place on Monday, April 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m., third floor auditorium of Town Hall, 30 Martin Street. The library will host a program in the auditorium called Everything You Need to Know About Town Meeting. That will take place on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 at 7 p.m. That'll be up here.
Did you hit all the rest of the licenses?
I did the licenses as
Okay.
a whole, yes.
Yeah.
Can I add to that? Because I just wanted to remind the public that, so dog licenses were due on the 31st of March. So those that have dogs may end up getting a phone call regarding late fees for their dog license. And then also, and I can't remember the date now, on the board is the registered, for those that need to register to vote. Is it the 28th?
I can look it up.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure people are aware that that's coming up also.
Excellent. Well, while BZ looks that up, I'm going to do an additional reminder. So for anybody that's listening to this meeting, or so anybody listening, if you could relay this information, we have an issue with the town hall front door. So as those of us that have a key and come and go, we know that the town hall door sticks and it doesn't always catch. So just a reminder to, when you lock the door, shut the door, pull on the door, and then shut it again to make sure that it's actually latching. The police department are coming to do their nightly checks, and they're finding that the town hall, yes, even though the door is locked, it's not catching. So the building is actually open. meaning you
We
can
try to
access
get
it.
that fixed.
We've tried and tried year after year, and it's something to do with kind of the humidity and
It's two wooden doors without a bar in the middle, so you end up with, it sometimes works great when it's dry in the middle of the winter.
so we just want to make sure that the door is pulled twice so that it actually locks.
So that day, the last day to register to vote at town meeting is April 25th at 5 PM.
Thank you.
Perfect. So at this time, I am going to take any public comment. I'm going to turn online first. If you have a public comment, please unmute yourself, identify yourself with your name and your address, and you're welcome to speak at this time. Okay, hearing no public comment online, I'm going to turn to in-person. Is there anybody in the room that has public comment? Just join us at the podium, and you want to speak 6 to 8 inches away from the microphone. Name and address, and then feel free.
Hi. Rosemary Lesh, Rockport. I'm a civilian harbor master. I have come in front of you in the past to support Harbor Master Fiello, and I still continue to do so. And you have two representatives from civilian communities, Rockport and Gloucester. We've both been, Chris Lucido, Harbor Master Lucido, and Rockport have been running civilian harbor master departments for over, I hate to say it, but over 30 years. And they've been run efficiently, always at the ready, never any concerns about who's going to respond or when they're going to respond. We support Dan 100%, and I know personally that he's worked extremely hard through the criminal justice training program. Knew Peter, Chief Peter, and we go a long way back. And I personally encourage him to continue to stay working to become a civilian harbor master.
Great, thank you so much.
I just have a question for you while you're here. You're still on the training council, right?
Yes.
Okay. Does each person in a harbor master department, whether it's a deputy or an assistant, also eventually need to get all of the
Yes.
training? So it's not just the harbor master,
Oh,
it's
you
not
have to
just
be-
somebody, it's
No,
everyone.
It's everybody, and you have to be working towards it, as Dan has so
Yeah.
diligently tried to do. And it's been very difficult with COVID. I'm not blaming it on that, but getting instructors, getting appropriate programs. We're now getting a lot online, and it's a tough thing to do, but we're all working hard to make it happen. And
Well, thank you.
The boating experience is huge.
Because I was going to reach out to somebody from the council, and you're right here, so it's perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any other public comment?
Hi, Kate Koch Sundquist, Dodge Street. I'm hoping to get a copy of your data request.
Sure.
If you have one. And then I'm following up on, this is not speaking for the school committee, speaking for myself. Brendan, I had emailed you a month ago requesting minutes from the finance committee. I'd emailed you and Jody. I followed up a couple times on that, and I didn't receive a response. So I'm still hoping to receive those minutes. I did go to our records, our town website has a public records access guidelines, and the finance committee is actually not listed under the overview of records maintained by the town of Essex, which is the records that you go to the record access officer for.
I'm not sure why that would be. I mean, they certainly are.
Okay, well, it's not on your guide here, so I would assume that either you or Jody must be the custodian of those records, and I have requested
No, it's not
them
me.
3
It has nothing to
times.
do with me. That's why I'm waiting for her to respond to you.
Okay, well, I have requested them 3 times, and it's been a
I
month
saw
now.
that, but it's up to her to respond.
Okay.
And would you like me to just copy you on the data request when it goes out to Superintendent Bowden?
I would, but I assume it's public record now, so I'd like a copy if you have.
I'm not going to give you one before it goes to the person that it's
Well,
intended.
Is it not public record now?
Not now. I mean, we could do within 10 days. I'm just asking for the courtesy of you getting it when it's presented to the person that it's intended for.
Yeah, I'm sure that Chris and I would each like a copy.
Sure, we'll do that, no problem.
Kate, can you please tell me the date of the minutes that you're requesting?
So there are a lot. As far as I can tell, the minutes have been posted intermittently. I can see that they were posted for one meeting in January, one meeting in December, and I think one meeting in February, but I know there have been many more. So I had requested all meetings in 2025. It's just difficult to track since there's no remote option to log on, and those meetings tend to take place during dinner or bedtime. It's hard to follow along with what's going on.
Okay, I will also give a gentle nudge about trying to get you whatever minutes are available. I can say, since I do attend all the finance committee meetings, sometimes even if they have minutes, but they don't have the proper members in attendance. So if a certain group of members were at the particular meeting, but they're not at the next one, it's tough to vote on minutes.
Yeah,
So
I know that it's difficult to have them approved, but I think that in draft form, they're also.
Correct, if they do, if
they
they
do
exist.
draft, right.
If they exist, and they haven't been voted on yet, you are entitled to them within 10 days of the request, if they exist.
Well, there's also laws about what minutes should exist, correct?
Minutes under the open meeting law are supposed to exist, correct, but there's no absolute defined timeline, I don't think. I'd have to check that.
Okay. I look forward to that. Thank you.
thank you, Kate. Okay, if you can, oh, go ahead, Dan.
I didn't realize the parking for the seasonal boating was going to be on the agenda. I didn't see that part. A few other concerns I had. But I have some data on that and some information if anybody wants to read. Well, I don't have it on me right now, but
Okay.
if we wanted it, that was going to be on.
Yeah,
the
that
next
would be
meeting.
good, because that's part of what they're considering.
Yep, because I talked to a lot of out-of-town residents and know, the financials mostly of it and what could help, because it was kind of something that I had as an idea and have talked to the police, obviously working in conjunction with them. So there's some stuff up here that I
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think one of the reasons that they presented it was that right now there are out of town people that are parking in the dirt lot and they're accepting their $100 fine happily. And they're like, well, I'll take my $100 fine because I want to use the ramp and I want to park here.
I think for a round number, if you multiplied it by 10, if you did 10 spots, it's $10,000 right out of the gate, non-refundable before the season starts. So
Right.
I know parking is the concern, how many cars you do, but if you did 10 cars, that pays for the paint. It's a basic paint, so if it rains, it's not like it's expensive. I do it for the city of Gloucester a lot. We do
Right. So
it.
you're suggesting the same, where we were talking about the potential of doing 10 in the first season because we want to see if it's successful. We don't want it to be too much and we don't want it to be too little.
I would say comparatively speaking, based on like what slips cost and stuff like that, that 1,000 for a season is not unrealistic. I think
So you think going from 750 to
I
1,000?
think you'd be surprised how many applicants you have.
And how many spots are there in the dirt lot?
I think the DPW is probably the best to chime in on that. I think the problem is going back to like the chaotic ramp stuff of COVID that we saw as you guys and me being on the ramp. I think there was also a time when every baseball person was taking their own car. So I think that was, that took up a lot of the lot. There was an abundance of boating. That was a secondary problem. I feel like both of those things have kind of slid down. You're going to have a nice day. It's going to be tight for them to get in there, but I think overall you'd be able to get 10 spots realistically with a truck and a trailer and get the town some funding, before the season even happens. I think that's one way to look at it. If it rains all summer, I don't want it to rain all summer, but that's 10,000 that you're putting in your pocket before anything happens. So
Correct. Thank you so much. If you want to bring us into executive session.
I'm going to recommend that the board move into executive session to discuss collective bargaining concerning a possible successor agreement with the AFSCME union, that the chairman declare that the board's open discussion of this matter would be detrimental to the board's negotiating position, and that the board will not be returning to open session this evening.
I will entertain a motion by roll call vote to go into executive session.
Peter Fippen, aye?
Alvin Carroll, aye.
Ruth Perrine, aye. Thank you, everybody.